I've known Keith Cutaback for over 10 years, but I never realized just how deep his passion for photography ran until he bought a van, named her Joy, and hit the road. At 76 years old, Keith has gone from San Francisco radio DJ to real estate broker to becoming one of the most inspiring photographers I know. From Death Valley's stark landscape to the mysterious swamps of East Texas, Keith and Joy have been capturing America's natural beauty in ways that few photographers can match. I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with my friend to discuss his life before retirement, his journey into photography, and how he found the courage to completely reinvent his retirement years. Here's our conversation. So, Keith, thank you very much for joining today. I really appreciate it. You and we were talking off camera for a bit and mentioned that I think it's been about 10 years, maybe even a little bit more since we first met. We met through a mutual friend of ours, but I got to talk with you a few times. And I remember too, even when I first met you, I did not realize that you were as deep into photography as you are right now. I didn't know that until you started traveling around the country in a van named Joy. And I'm going to ask you about that in a moment. This channel is really all about embracing retirement with purpose, passion, and new beginnings. And I think you fit in just about all of those categories. Be honest with you, I don't know anyone really that is embracing retirement as much as you are and following your passion. And what's cool about this is that even though we've known each other for a long time, I'm going to get to ask you some questions that I really don't know about that much. Because, like I say, we met through a mutual friend. We've always been like that third party there, but it's only been in
Mhm.
the last year that we've talked a little bit more. And we got to meet up in Death Valley last year, and I got to experience working with you. And even that, I learned a lot. But let me ask you, I know what you're doing right now, but what's your history? I'd love to know what you were doing before retirement.
Okay. I go way back. I'm an old guy. I'm 76. And out of college, I didn't follow my major. I went into radio broadcasting. I was a disc jockey for 15 years, most of it in San Francisco. And that was so much fun. That was just the best time of life. I worked 3 hours a day and have the rest of the time to play.
What was the
Um,
radio station, if I can ask?
I don't think any of them exist anymore. One was KYA. I used to listen to that as a kid, and people that I heard on there as a kid were still there. Some of them were still there when I started working there.
Was that AM?
That was AM. Then they transitioned to FM, and I went along into that. And then I went into FM radio and worked at K101 for a while, a huge station.
Yep.
And then I finished up at KSFX.
Okay. And so it sounds like you were a California native.
Yes, born and raised in Berkeley.
Okay, very good. So what happened? You did that, and then what happened after that? What'd you do?
Oh, the family started. Had my first son when 1979, and radio was going through some big evolution then. Couldn't really depend on it to make a living anymore, at least I couldn't. So I transitioned into something that ended up not being great, but I did it for the rest of my working days, and that was real estate. Okay, so I started a property management company, and I was a real estate broker. I basically did that until I retired 12 years ago.
Was that commercial or residential real estate?
Mostly residential. We did just a little commercial and some homeowners associations, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get involved in photography?
As far back as I can remember, my first camera was a little Brownie box camera that used the 220 roll film. Same one Ansel Adams started with back in the 20s, but I started with it back in the 50s.
Okay.
And it was just, to me, it was magical to capture an image that it was just, that was magic to me. And I just loved it. Then when I started in school and everything, I didn't really do much photography, but I was still intrigued by it. And I didn't really buy my first professional type camera until 1978, I believe.
And when you say school, are you talking college or elementary or high school?
Middle school, when you start getting in the social groups and
Right.
girls become important, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. And did you ever do any formal training in photography?
Yeah. Right after I bought my first camera, I took a couple of classes at the local community college just to do some darkroom work, learn what that was all about. And so then I took one of our three bathrooms in the house and turned that into a dark room and had great fun for a few years.
I did the same thing. I turned a bathroom into a dark room, had the three trays of the developer and the stop bath and whatever with that there. What was your first camera?
It was an Olympus OM1.
Okay, and you're still an Olympus user.
I still am, and they just came a year or so ago, they came out with the OM1 again, digital. It's a fabulous camera. It really is. Some people who use full frame laugh at me because it's a smaller form factor with the tiny sensor. I tell you, it works great.
And what lenses do you have now?
I have them all. Yeah, everything from a wide angle zoom, 7 to 14 millimeter, up to my most recent one I got because I got interested in wildlife and birds. So I bought the 100 to 400, which is like a 200 to 800 on this camera.
Some of the work that you did was in Texas, right? The swamps or
And that was so awesome. I've been wanting to go there for so long. And now that I'm close to it, I'm only about 3.5, 4 hour drive from East Texas.
when we first met, there was no Joy. And by the way, I'm going to mention this. You named your van Joy. So when I talk about joy, there was no joy in your life.
Joy came to my life in 2019.
What prompted you to do this? This is something that I guess one, I really admire you for doing this, but it's also something that usually when we think about people going off in a van and traveling around the country, at least for me, I think about it as young people, a lot younger than us. And you're doing it in your 70s, and I think that's great. But what prompted you to do it?
Okay, I was not liking real estate at the time. I wanted to retire. I was ready to retire. I was renting a house in the country club and playing golf all the time. And the house, the owner wanted back to move back into it. So I had a choice to make. What am I going to do? Am I going to rent another place in California? The thing that factored into this was at the time I'd been diagnosed with cancer a couple of years before, and I was getting treated at UCSF in San Francisco. And so my sweetheart at the time and I decided that we would get a van, and that way we could go do my appointments, which were numerous, and stay in the van in the city if we wanted to, and travel around, just have just a different lifestyle. I just looked online, learned a little bit about vans, found the perfect one from a guy actually in my neighborhood in Danville, and we just bought it. And the thing about it, we bought it 5 years ago, and that was just before COVID, just before the price of these things skyrocketed. So it was a perfect storm there. And so I bought it in November of 2019, and COVID hit, what, 3 months later. So I was out traveling the country, socially distancing all the time and taking my photography, and it was awesome. It just worked out perfectly.
Do you feel that your work is beautiful? And I know I've said that a number of times, but your work really is beautiful. I think you're one of the best photographers that I've not only know but seen out there before. I just admire your work. But do you think that your photography has gotten better over the traveling?
It has. I had to develop a new way of processing photos. I didn't have my 27-inch iMac anymore. So I switched over to an iPad, learned how to a workflow with that. And I did get a little disappointed with my progress about 2, 3 years ago. And I stopped making photos, and just went in a little bit and processed, what am I trying to accomplish here? And I came back out, and now I think my level of photography has gone up to the next level in the last, I'd say, 1 to 2 years.
So, what was the turning point? You say that you went and processed. What does that mean?
I was looking at my photos, I just wasn't happy with them. They just didn't please me anymore, most of them. And some of it was just the way I processed them. They were, as we say, over processed. So I'm not doing that so much anymore.
Now, are you using Lightroom and Photoshop?
Yes, but not the Lightroom Classic. I'm using Lightroom for iOS. So it's on my iPad and my iPhone. So that's what I use. Yeah.
And now I got to ask you this because this has also been a challenge of mine. How do you learn Lightroom and Photoshop? Because it seems those are really massive applications to master.
Yes, I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
So,
Okay, because that's a good source. There's a lot of stuff on there.
are there any photographers out there that you admire, that you follow?
Quite a few. Yeah.
Can you name a couple?
There's one, William Neal is one. Back in the 80s, I actually went to Death Valley. That was the first time I did a photo workshop, and he was one of the instructors. There were only 2 students and 3 instructors at that workshop. We camped right there in the valley, and he was one of them. And he's still out there producing really great stuff. Yeah, he's one. Another one is Trey Ratcliffe. I learned a lot from him maybe 10, 12 years ago. He developed the HDR process.
Okay.
A lot of photographers go through this HDR period, and then you get over it and move on. But yeah, I admire him. He does some excellent things. Those are current photographers. Now, I've bought and studied every Ansel Adams book that he ever wrote. Edward Weston. I love Edward Weston. I
Okay.
read his day books. He did the peppers, the green peppers. He'd do those erotic type shots of peppers. I follow photographers, but I don't follow and try to emulate any of them anymore. That's where I got stuck. I would get a vision of something that I wanted because I'd seen somebody else do it, and it never came out quite right. So now I just go out and take a wander down a trail and see what I can find.
So what's next for you? I know you're at home right now because I can look in the background and that does not look like a van.
No, we're nice and roomy here. I'm going to hop in the van on Friday and head west.
Okay. And
It's
how long are you going to be gone for?
about 3 weeks. I don't plan anything. I just go and I stop when I get tired or I find something interesting. And I'll be going to Death Valley.
Have you ever had any van trouble where it's broken down out in the middle of nowhere?
No, and I've been on I go where I shouldn't be taking it sometimes on these dirt roads, but I haven't gotten in trouble yet, and it hasn't broken down on me on the road yet.
Keith, thank you very much for coming on board. Before we end, I want to just ask you for people that are watching this, what's the best way to take a look at your work out there? And I know that you do some sales on your website and calendar and some prints and stuff like that.
It's all on my website, keithcutaback.com. There's a contact page there. My email is in2photos.
I love that. I love
That's in the number 2photos at gmail.com. And I've had that for 20, 25 years. I've had that a long time, ever since the internet happened.
it.
That tells you how much into photography I am. Yeah, and I'm like you, I'm building a website, rebuilding it. I tore down the old one, rebuilding it and adding galleries, and so it's in process right now, but it works great and I have a lot of photos up there if people are interested.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for coming on. So I hope you found my conversation with Keith regarding how he's embracing retirement with purpose, passion, and new beginnings inspirational. And if you haven't already done so, I'd love for you to subscribe to his channel and hit that bell notification because I do upload these kind of videos every Tuesday and I'd hate for you to miss one. Thanks for stopping by and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.